everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. We're here back with Bonny Meyer and we're talking about her book, Perfectly Paired, The Love Affair Behind Iconic Wine. So, welcome back. Now, we were talking about um, how when after your husband died, you had these lucid dreams, which then led you to the Morrow Institute, where you learned a technique, a meditation technique that enabled you to travel realms of consciousness. You said level 21, you took a bridge over and you met your husband and you could talk to him face to face. And then level 27 is another realm in which you travel to. Um, so, how, how has this changed your life? I mean, I don't even know how does how does this whole experience transformed and changed your life? Like, I can't even imagine what your life is like now.
um, so once you expand your consciousness,
Hmm.
you can't. It's like you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You
Hmm.
can't. You can't. I can't take my consciousness and become smaller.
Hmm.
Once I, one of the little mantras that Monroe Institute teaches is, "I am more than my body.
Hmm.
I'm more than my physical body." Once you really experience that, uh, you don't go back. So my another way of saying that my worldview is forever changed.
Mm. Yeah, so when your worldview has changed and you have the mundane happening, right? Which is not mundane, it may be special, like someone's asking you about billing or, can you sign the paperwork? How has that experience been for you merging the, ordinary with the extraordinary?
It's a lot easier. Sometimes, actually, this happened way before the Monroe Institute. Sometimes I can actually easily picture myself as if it happened in church first time. I was sitting in church and I somehow pictured myself, my consciousness went up above and I was looking down at everything that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And when really challenging things are happening or confusing things, and I want to get things in perspective, I can do that. I just fairly easily kind of, it's a way of, it's like floating up above the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then the drama that people say from Earth, from space, you can't see country borders. You know, all of the disagreements and the argument over borders or territory in life disappears.
Mm. So when you've
Um,
been traveling to these places during, I assume it's like one of the most challenging times I think that we're experiencing as humanity with COVID and Black Lives Matter. I mean, when you take that higher perspective from a higher level of consciousness, what comes to you?
mm. I I have a sense. I'm not. This isn't necessarily the truth with a capital T, but I have a
Yeah.
sense that that COVID is here to help us get back into balance as a society and in relationship to the earth. And one of the things that happened, I think it was week 3 of lockdown, all of a sudden there was less CO2 in the atmosphere than there had been in 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
as example. And many people were spending more time with their families and slowing down their pace of life and expressing the interest in not going back to what had become a faster pace.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in terms of what George Floyd has done for us with his death, it's not about Black Lives Matter for me. It's not about police brutality. It's really about finally getting to a place where we can get beyond systemic racism.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's I'm sorry, it's just time. And so many people, I think the majority of people in this country are all of a sudden waking up
Mm,
to that it's just time.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think it's just time for all the things that you mentioned before to like slow down. It's just time to like get back to the environment. Have you noticed? Because you're out, you're. I assume that you've been visiting your vineyards and everything. Does it feel different?
Actually, farming plants don't wait for um, viruses
Yeah.
to stop. And so farming hasn't stopped. So it's really things around where I live have been very normal in the sense that tractors are going, people are out in the vineyard, they're staying a little farther apart from each other, they're wearing masks, but nothing has stopped. Uh, in the wine business, wineries have been challenged, some more than others. People that were selling wine just in grocery stores are fine, and the wineries, the smaller ones, have been challenged by not having visitors. So,
Mm-hmm.
so there's a big difference in that regard. But we have a very active organic vegetable garden
Mm-hmm.
on our property that we sell or give away vegetables,
Oh.
and that hasn't stopped. So we haven't stopped producing food and good food and wine.
Yeah, I wonder because I don't know whether it's just taking more walks in nature, but things seem more verdant and
Yeah,
lush. And I can't, I'm like, am I just imagining this? Is it because I've been walking a lot that I'm more present and noticing? Or is it that because of the CO2 going down, that the plants are now thriving? That's what I meant where things change. I don't know if you've noticed a
I
difference.
have. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I think there's less pollution. Plants thrive on CO2, so they're fine with that. But it's just in general the pollution.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I just wonder what it would be like, especially in the vineyards, or if there is no difference at all. But yeah, it's been a very interesting time. All right, so your transformation, it sounds like, has been kind of just an expanded consciousness and kind of living from that place. And how's your what's your desire to be in relationship with anyone when your husband's still there at level 21 or 27?
You know, I've now I would say he and I have now evolved to a place where I don't have to get into a meditative state. If I just in a moment think of him, I can feel him hugging me from behind,
No.
with his big bear paws, on my chest. Um, so, so our relationship is very free flowing and easygoing. I would say that transformation included really surrendering to grief, and so many of us are facing grief of all kinds right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the grief that's come from shifting relationships and work. Maybe we're out of a job and we don't see how we're going to get back into the workforce because we were a waiter at a restaurant and the
Mm-hmm.
restaurant's just closed or whatever it is. Um, and so there's a lot of, and we're experiencing grief over our country and why it's taken us so long to be treating everyone as an equal human being. There's so much grief that's going around right now, and I would say that by surrendering to grief, it really transformed me. It really opened my heart in ways that nothing else could have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a primary gift of grief. I think everyone finds their own individual gifts in that deep well of grief, but it is a primary one. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to invite people who are listening to really allow themselves to dive into that.
Yeah.
Am I hopeful for another relationship? I am, but I'm also really um I don't want uh, I have no desire for anything that's less than incredibly deep, intimate, uh, fulfilling somebody I truly admire.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mm. I want to ask you about your surrendering to grief because, for my dad, who I was very, very close with, um, it's been so long. I mean, the grieving process has happened over, like a 22-year period, and it will still hit me in times when I'm not even expecting it. And when when you talk about surrendering to grief, sometimes I don't even know. It's like a nonverbal conceptual thing. It's just I feel grief and I just feel it completely versus like you said initially, you just wanted to run away, which is kind of my natural go-to place. Like, oh, I'd rather run away than feel any of these emotions. But that's what I interpreted when you said surrender and grief. What is it for you when you surrender grief? What does it mean for you?
For me, it meant to truly feel all those feelings and um, and all the difficulty, all the. I mean, grief is such a difficult emotion,
Hmm.
and to really, again, dive into it. That's really the best word.
Fully embrace the whole aspect of all the dimensions of grief.
Right. But it doesn't mean that you won't won't ever have moments. I mean, I started to cry a little bit when I was telling the story of the pebble and holly. It doesn't mean that you don't um, you leave grief behind forever.
Hmm.
There will always be these things that remind you or make you feel sad and you go, wow, where did that come from? But here I
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
And but there's something beautiful about that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the beautiful part, as you said, is like opening the heart, right? It's like, because what is not surrendering is guarding. So if you're guarding, then there's always this, what I'm finding in my own letting go of grief is that there are these blocks to or guards that you put on your heart, and people feel them. You feel them. You don't express. You don't fully live life if you have them on, and life
That
includes awful, horrible things that, if you drop the guards and you feel them, or you don't feel them, but then you also don't feel the joy, right? It's like a little window in
exactly
a car. You have to decide, is it going to be up or down? If you have it up, you're not going to feel as much, but you're also not going to feel some of the joy. So,
That's exactly
yeah.
right.
Anyways, it's been lovely talking to you. Been talking to Bonnie Meyer, who is the author of this book, Perfectly Paired: The Love Affair Behind an Iconic Wine. Thank you so much for being here.
You're very welcome, CJ.
All right, so
It's
we'll
been a
do.
pleasure.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.